Hello and welcome to another Minecraft Musings. Anyways, I wanted to turn it on before it loaded in because the recording before the world loaded because I wanted to see. Oh, I'm not close enough to. Ooh, actually, this is kind of bad. It's like I'm in the ground, but dang it, I was hoping to face that, but it's also not nighttime, so it's not as cool as. I noticed I got it at the very beginning of the last episode where you could see the coral and everything. So. Anyways, no, well, first off, got a lot done at work. I'm still getting a lot done. I always do, of course. But, no, I really have. I mean, I've tied up a bunch of loose ends. I'm feeling pretty good about today. And I've been listening to the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, Vladimir Putin, um, in the background. I guess I could call him President Putin. And we really should be. See, already you can tell, it's quite the interview for me to be saying something like that. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, Putin's cool and like Ukraine down with Ukraine or anything like that. No, and that's immediately what a lot of people are gonna like think anytime there's anything pro Putin, and that's understandable. That's human nature. We're very cautious of another Hitler. We're cautious of any threat, really. But oh, I gotta just point out a very refreshing thing about the interview early on. Like, it was within the first half hour, I think, or maybe the first 40 minutes. No, because I'm only at like 46 minutes, but I'm not even halfway through it. It's a 2 hour interview, and it's worth the listen. I hate Tucker Carlson only in the sense that he he was very misleading. And maybe honestly so. Like, I feel like a lot of the quote unquote evils or misunderstandings are just miscommunications and misunderstandings. Because we can't give the whole story in a little meme. Like, we can't give the whole story in even one news interview, one report, one this, one that. And it's so hard, myself included, myself very much included. So I used to be all about, like, on the a Facebook warrior with Democrats. But and don't get me wrong, I still think a lot of the Republican Party is more about self-preservation and greed, refusing to yield to common sense wealth redistribution. And that even sounds scary and stuff, but the wealth inequalities themselves, like to the point where people are dying and all this. And I don't know. It's my opinion that there's not a human out there that doesn't enjoy doing their own work. They just might not understand. And so even if it seems like they're lazy or welfare queens or any of the other derogatory things that we talk about, not me included, I've been there, but for people that haven't been there, it could seem like, oh, well, if they're taking a government assistance program, it's a handout, and all of that goes back to the misunderstanding that the government is spending too much, and then that's costing us, raising up the bill, like any of these things, and like the national debt, and this and that. But at the same time, if the world becomes one world government, one NATO, and it doesn't even have to be one world government, I think that's why a lot of people I talk to kind of shy away from it. They're like, oh no, because that's scary. Because then the idea comes into like, well, we could have one dictator and then it's 1984 and we're doing Logan's Run and all of these different fictitious ideas, which, yeah, they're fiction, but they're warnings of, hey, be careful, otherwise this could happen. Or, hey, what do you think would happen if this would happen? Like, it's like hypothetical. But that's why I love adult cartoons like Rick and Morty and South Park and Simpsons. And I mean, I grew up with Simpsons. I started watching South Park, I think, in middle school. Um, because I mean, I definitely wasn't allowed to. I mean, that was like a pretty like mature rated cartoon and stuff. Like, just because of the concepts, the language, the vulgarity, but then also like the not so much the concepts really. I mean, the adult content concepts, but some of the thought-provoking stuff. I don't know. That's why I also worry about this being a Minecraft thing. We're talking about, Russia and all that, and some kid's gonna be no, I mean, honestly, some kid's gonna see it, be like boring, and switch out. So I don't feel too bad about, I still say these aren't made for kids. Or at least it's not going to kids YouTube. But still, like, could you imagine if I accidentally like triggered a Bolshevik revolution in a kindergarten? Like, jeez. Or, like, sorry, I'm joking there. But Russia, Putin specifically asked Bill Clinton back in 2000s, the 2000s, I don't know exactly when, and it's not important. He asked him, and Bill Clinton said, like he didn't think of it as a possibility, and that's understandable too. They'd be like, Why not? Why don't we all just team together? Why do we keep doing these meetings and doing these like diplomacy and all of this and then having to waste so much money on defense and armory stuff and like our defense budget is way bloated and so is Russia's and this and that. Again, all because of miscommunications because what happened? According to President Putin, like this is what happened in 2000 is Bill Clinton said, I don't see why not. Or like he seemed hopeful. He seemed, yeah, we could probably do that. Or I think he left it as I don't know. Because I want to say there was like a, I don't know, but leaning towards the positive side, if that makes sense. Like I forget the exact wording he used in that interview, but and that makes total sense. Like that would be my response. I feel like that would be almost any American's response. Hey, you're meeting with this president from Russia. We just got done with the Cold War. Like we're trying to fix all these things that our parents and our grandparents broke. Hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, man, why are we fighting? Let's just be at NATO. And Putin did say later that, um, sorry, I don't mean disrespect to him. And I say that now because it was great to see this interview to see the human side. Sorry, let me finish the thought though. So Clinton comes back after talking to his people, and I think it was the CIA or the agencies or whoever, doesn't matter, like his people. And he said, probably not. And so he was told by someone, by his advisors, by everything, it could have been anyone, for any reason, no. Okay, so right there, I've said this before, mutually assured construction, the inverse of mutually assured destruction is where we start trusting each other and start building together, and that invested time and effort and energy working with each other would build solid relationships to where we don't need to worry about who's going to shoot who or stab who in the back or whatever. One global government. And, okay, sorry, just one NATO. That's it. One NATO, one alliance, one treaty. The UN was supposed to be like that, and I feel like that's why there's some confusion. People think the UN is that. Well, it's not. NATO is, and I'm a little worried. It sounds like there's some moving of goalposts in that aspect. Like, okay, well, we've got the UN. All right, we're part of the UN. Now we're working together. Okay, but now there's NATO. Okay, well, can we join NATO? Like, I could just see this as Russia as a little kid and America as a little kid. Be like, no. And then the kid goes back to his friends. All right, what do we say? What do we think? Nah, I don't like him. He's kind of weird. He talks funny, or it could have been any reason, literally any reason. Or oh, he charged me too much when, well, and that suggests that kids have economies, and really high schoolers end up do, unfortunately, for better or for worse. But I mean, people, it's just natural to. Actually, no, I say kids have it too. I remember there was barter systems. There was things in place to where you could trade your milk money for this and that, or I don't know. And I even remember people dealing adult content, pornography in high school. Like, so I mean, it's out there. Like, and people are gonna do that. People are gonna find shortcuts and find things like that and do it thinking that they're doing what they're supposed to. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But Russia wanted, well, not wanted to join NATO. And remember, this is at the same time, pride is a big thing. And I think what Putin even said after that is like, well, once he heard that it wasn't an option, okay, that's a closed door. But had they said yes, and Tucker actually made sure to say that, he's like, and remember, I'm really mad at Tucker for his whole cannabis versus menthol thing. Like he tried to make weed sound like super evil and stuff. And again, he might have been genuine in trying to do so. Like, what is he supposed to think? He's asking these questions, he's investigating, and then it's not up to him how social media and regular media portray it or spin it or whatever. So yeah, so there'd be a lot of interesting stuff to do with that. Like have a big round table conversation, with Tucker, with Putin, with Biden, with everything. There we go. See, I'll call Biden that too because I mean I even voted for the guy, but I don't mean him any disrespect either. Trump some disrespect, but that's more jealousy because he was born rich, and there's a lot of Americans out there who ain't, and we'll never know what that's like until we fix things. So, and they don't need to know what it's like to be super super rich, but it's just ugh. And it's not Trump's fault. I mean, it's not his dad's fault. Like it's a series of unfortunate events, like that Lemony Snicket's thing. Like for lack of a better term, a lot of it is just miscommunication. Like a whole slew of a history of misunderstanding. So, and I say that because it doesn't matter who, um, what is this? Yeah, so like, and I'm talking to my buddy about it, the one I was talking about just in last episode. Super smart guy, one of the smartest guys I know. Didn't do that great in school, but like, it wasn't for any lack of trying. It wasn't for a lack of capability. It wasn't for a lack of understanding. It was, I think, a lack of caring, really. I mean, I think he got disingenuous in it, with it, and that happens everywhere too, with with college, higher education, all that. And it's a shame, that people get turned away from education like that, which they don't. I mean, just because he didn't go on to college doesn't mean that he didn't stop learning, stop growing, stop like perfecting his understanding. Not even perfecting. Sorry, that goes a little far, but like refining his understanding through observations of the world around us. Like it doesn't just stop because you don't go to college. Granted, it's a lot better if you go to college because then you get to take some time off, relax, and your job becomes learning. Like your whole point is to get the grades and learn what the teachers are trying to teach you or the professors. Which I can't even say that because one of my favorite educators didn't have a PhD, so technically he wasn't a professor. So, and there you go, like labels, even though we use them to kind of, it's good to know who's a professor and who's not, and this and that, because then it gives people a brief understanding of, oh, well, this person spent this much more time to get this much more understanding in said field. So, okay, I get it, but I mean, to think of any less of anyone because they don't have that and they're still educating or they're still educators, they're still vetted by the university. And that's why I say, because I went to CSU, and they still spend a lot of effort to make sure that the people teaching the classes, hold on, okay, oh, that's why oh, that's why this place is in such disarray anyway. Um, so we need those. Don't really need anything else. All right, at least not now. Okay, it's trampling all my melons. So, but anyways, no, just like that, the idea that like one global government, it's not supposed to be like a global government where like everybody wants to rule the world and one dictator can completely destroy everything. No, if anything, it's going to be so many cooks in the kitchen that every country now is represented as just a state. And that state continues to just function independently, but yet jointly with the world as a state. That's it. Everybody's going to just become a state, and that's what I hope, in my lifetime or my kids' lifetime, that the entire world will become the United States of the world. Or the name could be whatever. I don't care. I mean, the USSR tried to do it, but the big downfall with that was communism. America disagreed with communism, so that's why the whole Cold War happened. I mean, and again, I feel like there's a ton of miscommunication and misunderstandings that caused the Cold War, even. I mean, if you think about it, we didn't have Twitter or XAT. We didn't have instant communication with each other. I couldn't hear what Putin would want to say at the time. Even in the 2000s, I couldn't even hear what Clinton wanted to say in the 2000s. You know, I didn't have access to that. And even if I did, well, I'd probably have to have a security clearance, like run through all these checks and everything, which I actually worked with, or I talked with a person who used to do that, the psychological screenings for security clearances. And as we talked, it was just like, maybe I don't want one, because as a cybersecurity professional, I was thinking about getting one, um, and seeing if I even could, because with my checkered past, I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised they were like, yeah, you know what? No, and that's fine. I mean, but that just means that that person's doing their job to screen against these standards. But then it also makes you a bigger target too, unfortunately, because foreign governments are like, ooh, this person's on this list. They might know something. And again, even that, like all of this spy cloak and dagger stuff. Oh, I used to read a lot of spy novels. Robert Ludlum writes a lot of them. And I had some time to do a lot of reading once upon a time. So, anyways, I digress. But um, no, it's misunderstanding and miscommunication. Like I got to get them before they get to me. And I really wish I could remember where I heard that, because it was like some villain in some show. Um, which it's funny, Scooby-Doo, the villain always ends up being a person, usually under some financial woes, or there's actually some legitimate reason, but then they took matters into their own hands, like the killdozer that happened here in Colorado, where an engineer just built a tank out of a bulldozer and ended up plowing through a bunch of buildings and like basically taking the law into his own hands and fixing something. And if you even look into the history of that, like it was a legal battle between this guy and this business, I believe, built their something that blocked his business. Somehow, a construction project was able to move forward that hindered his business, that blocked his business. And so, either way, nobody was completely in the right or completely in the wrong. But the guy built a killdozer and took the law into his own hands after being turned down, denied, what have you. So, yeah. scary, and that guy's dead. I mean, and a lot of property was destroyed, and then law enforcement has no choice. Be like, oh my gosh, like there's this gigantic tank loose on the community. We got to stop this threat, like because then it's a threat to public safety. So it's like, again, everybody's just trying to do their job, and it's you don't always have all the time in the world to make decisions. Like if you see a tank running down, you don't care what the reasoning is. You stop that tank. Like, people could get hurt. So I don't know. It's all, I'm not justifying any of that, like one way or the other. And if I am, there's a lot of, which I'm not. I'm not justifying radical anything, vigilante. And thank goodness we're not to the point where we need a Batman to be doing stuff. Because even that, I love the Batman movies. It's like, oh yeah, but you think about it, every one of those people goes to Arkham, and a lot of them go back into this community, which is interesting. Like people that would commit the most heinous crimes. Oh, nope, they're back. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. There's plot holes and there's other explanations for that, but in fact, let's see. Oh, but that is so interesting. Like I'm glad, and again, I don't like Tucker Carlson because he did. I guess maybe mainly because I've only seen snippets of his work, and I did watch an interview with him and Vivek Ramaswamy. Even though I completely disagreed with just about everything Vivek said, I started, the more I listened to Vivek, the more I realized like this guy believes it because he's been convinced of this. Now, whether it's right or wrong, and all it takes is a few condemning facts being like, well, that does look pretty bad. I mean, like the salt tax, when I was discussing things with the soldier and the lawyer, um, and he's just like, hey, what do you think about this article? And I read through it, and I found out that Bernie Sanders was very opposed to it because it seemed like it was like a seedy thing that the Democrats were trying to push through. And it's like, oh, and even saying that, not every single Democrat is on board. I mean, I've been watching the votes on a few things, and it's like, they are starting to get a little split. And oh, and let's talk about the border security thing. Now, I don't think there's an invasion at the bottom at the south. That's my opinion of the whole thing. However, this bill, and I keep seeing all the people in my own echo chamber talking about this bill that the Republicans killed, but then I look at the comments in there, and it's because they say that it includes aid to Ukraine. Excuse me. So why do we feel the need to sneak in stuff when we're trying to just address one issue? We should make one law, one issue, and that goes for both sides too. But like right now, I'm criticizing the Democrats. If that's true, I should really read the thing. If it's not true, then okay. But and then I didn't see anybody say like, no, there wasn't aid for Ukraine in there. I just saw people justifying it like, no, Ukraine needs our help. And it's like, okay, wait, hold on. Ukraine needs our help. That's a different issue. Whether you agree with it or not, let's not muddy the waters and let's fix one issue, one law. Like, and I've seen that a bunch actually, both sides. Like when I do read bills, like there's other stuff stuck in. Like the Inflation Reduction Act had all sorts of different things. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really glad it happened. But there was so many things going on that I can see how people would have confusion and mistrust for something that it's multifunction. All right, let me put it this way too. When you're weightlifting and you're trying to build muscle, you're not supposed to do, well, I mean, if you're going to do multi muscle lifts, you need to do it very carefully because one wrong move and poof, you can really screw something up because your body is focusing on one thing, and then if you try to do too much at once, there's a very good chance that you could get hurt. Um, in fact, that's why like you see some of those exercise videos where people are like jumping around using equipment inappropriate or not the right way, not inappropriately. It's not like they're doing like adult time with it, um, but no, just not doing it the right way, being dangerous with it, accidentally, not like I'm gonna go use this equipment dangerously. Like that doesn't exist. There's no boogeyman. Like, and that's the thing when I see all this stuff, and I'm so glad I saw. I mean, I have to finish it. Granted, I got still a lot more I need to do this afternoon, but still got another hour to listen to. Maybe I'll do that tonight, or maybe re-watch it and like dedicate some time because, like I said, it's just on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. But Putin asked Clinton if Russia could join NATO. That's huge. That's the answer right there. We need to approach that concept of let Russia join NATO, and then this whole Ukraine thing doesn't even matter. I mean, we could just say everybody owns everything. It's one world. Let's all. I mean, who really cares about the sovereignty? Because the other thing that I've heard is there's a lot of loyal Russians in that area, like Crimea, and I don't know. I don't know specifically, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's like, it sounds like if the local people there, kind of like that argument, like states should make up their own laws, except like the Roe v. Wade thing, which, and I hate saying that because then I sound like a hypocrite. I feel like that should just be a generally understood, like, or maybe there needs to be a consensus on when a life is considered a life, and that we can all agree on. Because even Judaism says the first breath. I think the limit was after the first trimester, you couldn't do an abortion anyway, because then it was declared like a life is a life at or after the first trimester or something like that. Like there's enough, or I think it might even be dependent on brain activity, or the brain is actually formed. And then you get into soul, like I don't know. I mean, nobody really knows for sure. Souls, yes or no. Like, and again, I was raised Christian, specifically Methodist, where I have a pretty good understanding of what the Bible's about and like what's in there. Not everything. There's a lot. I mean, jeez, there's even a donkey show. Like, I'm not gonna know everything in there, but or what I learned from South Park, Job. Job, they do an animation in there, and Job has all of his stuff taken away because it's supposed to be a test, and that sounds dangerous in itself. Like, okay, something really horrible happens to a person, let's just chalk it up to God, proving something to the devil. That's a horrible idea. Like, what? No, we could just accept that maybe God isn't paying attention, if God exists too, mind you. I'm not trying to say like you need to become Christian or Muslim or anything or believe in anything. I'm just saying, like, as far as human understanding goes throughout history, um, and I took a lot of art history classes too, and guess what? Most of the art throughout the ages were worshiping some deity or the other. One of my favorites is the fertility relic, not relic, the fertility something. I can see it in my mind. I'd have to look it up, but it's an idol of fertility, and it's basically a chubby woman without a head, and it was just something that was carried around. They had these little trinkets, kind of like we have mud flaps on our trucks nowadays. Like it was a symbol of women and our appreciation, our devotion, and our infatuation with women. And as I say that, like there's some other species, men would often, or he-men, would often carry items that would remind them of women. And women do it too. Women, have their keepsakes of guys, like, gals and guys and all that, and everyone in between. Like, it's human nature. So, oh, sorry, I feel like I always have to do those gymnastics whenever I bring up men, women, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, he-men and women should be on equal footing. I've had more people come forward and say that women shouldn't vote, and I had another person say that it was fake, that I was making it up. And the post that or they responded, I don't know if it's a he or she, but or in between, but like uh, they said fake. I was like, okay. And it was a screenshot of three people saying women shouldn't vote. Three different people, three different Twitter accounts or X app accounts. And and that alone is kind of annoying or alarming. And like the most recent one in the picture has a guy with his face, so it's not like I went and made up this account and this persona. I could have. And trust me, it would probably actually be pretty easy, but no. No, I don't even want to be thinking about that. Like, if people would make like 50 of them to say, I mean, I know it's happening, but not this. And, anyways, the guy's post was a husband should vote for his wife as God intended and bringing religion into him. It's like, man, you say stuff like that. And he was an older gentleman. I was like, at least from his picture, he's got a white beard and whatnot. And it's like, that might have been how things were done in your time. But now it's a new era. That's the end of the world. And I was explaining this to my kiddos the other day. Some translations say the end of the world is actually the end of an era or the end of an age. Uh-oh. Sorry, I got something that might possibly be. Uh, okay, cool. Sorry. Jeez. Why does everybody wait till like lunchtime? Sorry, I've got a lot of work stuff going on, but no, this is my lunch. This is my lunch. And I'm also drowning. Did you see that? That's how easy it is. I do AFK for a little bit and I'm underwater and then poof. So, anyways, no. The misunderstanding, miscommunication, that's all a lot of it is. It's just, wait, did I leave? I think I did. Anyways. And it's time and time again. So, okay, so why is that important? Well, it's also sketchy. First of all, you got to be very careful how you approach that subject with people because people are dying over this. It's not all nonchalant like, oh yeah, Russia's just coming in and taking what's rightfully theirs or anything like. It's it's hard to overgeneralize like that, and you shouldn't because there's so much more to it. And now we know. Like a lot of people don't even think about that idea. Like, Clinton was surprised, like, huh, like, because he probably genuinely wasn't even thinking about that. He was just like, okay, I'm here to do this job. I'm representing my country. I have to be strong yet. And all of this unnecessary extra nonsense that we put on this, like, show, this, like, whole facade with people from other countries because we have to act like all big and important. We've got our egos and all of this, and then, we've got the pressures that we're representing our country and we have to do good. But how is everybody so expensive? Come on now. Thank you. So, and that I've been watching a lot more Breaking Bad and just understanding the ins and outs. And like right now, well, spoilers. So for anybody who hasn't seen Breaking Bad, I'm at the part where Walt is at odds with Gus and he's trying to like use explosives and blah blah blah. So I'll try not to spoil anything for anyone, but um, understanding the motives. Why do people do what they do? I mean, when life and death become a thing, fight or flight come in to play, and we know that biologically. It is a fact of like how our bodies function. No matter if you're a human, women, or them, and like everybody has a fight or flight reflex. It's just a natural part of evolution. And whether or not you believe in evolution, it's a part of how we were made. Doesn't matter who made us or how, it just is. It's what we've observed as fact. And that too. Sorry, how much time I got? In fact, well, let's just keep an eye on it because we're getting close to that 30-minute mark. But mm, religion. Religion in a nutshell is giving thanks and appreciation and respect to a creator. Doesn't matter who the creator is. That's why we have different religions. But that's what all religion is. It's an attempt to try to explain the unexplained or to understand what we don't understand currently. And nobody knows what happened at the beginning of the universe. We don't know. We can't have observed it. We're trying to. And then you get Neil deGrasse Tyson and all the astrophysicists and all the sciencey nerds together and all saying about the same thing. Like, this is what we know, this is what we think, and this is what we can prove. Like, they separate it out like that. And that's important because, as is, like, we've got, a really old religious book, or books, plural. We've got the Quran, we've got the Bible, are the main ones I keep talking about. We also got the Torah, and I think there's a few for Judaism. But, anyways, I even know even less about Judaism than I do about Islam. But I know enough about Islam to know, and I know enough about Muslims to know, well, they're human like me, so I can predict how they're going to act, what they're going to think, based on what they observe, what they have happen to them. I mean, and I'll remind my viewers, I have a friend who died. He got jumped and killed, beaten to death here in America because he was not white. Like, I didn't even know what he was. I thought he was Italian, honestly, and I didn't care. But like, I didn't know he was from the Middle East. I mean, and he even wore some scarves and stuff like that. Like I had the Saudis, not the same, but or maybe I don't even know. That would be even crazier if he was a Saudi. But I feel like I've seen these particular scarves in a few different places. It could have been anything. Could have been Indian. Could have been Saudi. Could have been Iranian. Could have been Iraqi. Like, doesn't matter. I mean, I really don't care. And I think that nobody really cares when it comes down to it, except because of the situation. And I think there was some drinking involved. A bunch of guys beat him up because, and probably from projection too. He was probably feeling discriminated against and unrightfully so. And that's another thing I'm discussing with the lawyers, like how traffic stops are easier on white men like myself or white human like myself because we are the least likely to have. I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, it's still there's a chance if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. But on average, I have to worry about it less. And just knowing that, or even just thinking that, I'm going to be cooler and more calm during a traffic stop. I'm going to still be scared, and I'm going to explain that to the cop. And same with the cop. The cop's going to be a little less on edge if I'm just upfront with them, be like, I don't get this is new to me. This is the first time I've been pulled over. I'm sorry. What would you like? And then you got to listen. You got to pay attention because the whole time they're trying to figure out if you're drunk, if you're high, if you're on some kind of substance, like if you just killed somebody and you're fleeing from the scene of an accident. Like they got all of these questions going on Like, every time they interact with somebody, because that's their job, they got to protect against crime. And so they're always looking for it, even when it isn't there. So, okay, and I think yeah, that's about 30 minutes. I'll cut this one for now. I might go eat, and then I gotta get back to work. But ta-ta for now. I'll see you all in the next one. I'm sorry, just like the big takeaway is President Putin asked President Clinton about Russia joining NATO. And that just right there, that confirms what I've been talking with a bunch of my friends and colleagues. Like, why don't we just invite Russia to join NATO? And people are like, oh, that's preposterous. So, and like, especially when I say that on the X app with random strangers online, they're like, oh, don't be stupid, or like this and that, or free Ukraine or Slava Ukraine. And then it's like, okay, that's great and all, but like, wait, what if Russia joined NATO, Ukraine joined NATO, we all join NATO, and then we all have the similar agreement of respect and not killing each other? Like, I think that's a win-win. And then, let people decide, I don't know, like who really needs to be in charge as long as, what if we're all working together and, President Putin shows up to office, like he plugs into the Zoom call, President Biden shows up, he plugs into the Zoom call, President Zelensky plugs in, shows up to the Zoom call, and then we just handle everything like adults. And it could all be a Zoom call. We got instant translators. Like they were translating in real time. Tucker Carlson was speaking English to President Putin, and President Putin was talking back to Tucker in English. Well, it was like being translated. So I don't know. It's just I'm still mad at Putin for invading Ukraine, but I'm mad at America for doing a lot of stuff too. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean I love America any less, and it doesn't mean that I'm not worried about Russia any less or Ukraine. I mean, all lives matter, and that's such a cringy thing to say, but it's true. All human life matters. All people matter. We need to stop killing each other, and we need to figure it out. So, anyways, sorry, I went a little bit past, but ta-ta for now. I will see you in the next one.